Hey everyone, thank you for watching my brand new video. Today we're going to be looking at transmission mounts. There's a transmission mount by the driver's side, just behind the wheel, right behind where the control arm is and so on. And we're going to be looking at changing that. I'll be upgrading mine at the same time as I tend to do, so I'll be moving up to a poly mount, and we'll look at that in a bit. But it really applies for any of the mounts you get. So it's a pretty straightforward process. Seems a little daunting, but it's actually fairly easy. But there are some pretty big safety concerns with it too, so I'll go through everything with you. As always, please like if you do like the video. If you don't like the video, dislike. Let me know why. You know, that's how I put out the best content for you guys. And that, don't forget to sub too. But let's get right to it, shall we? As always, make sure you practice safety when you're doing any type of work, especially under the car. As you can see here, I have it jacked up, and it's on jack stands, not just relying on the jack alone. So of course, make sure you're always practicing to make sure, in this case, you know, it's held up on the subframe and everything. Best way to do it, make sure you're always being safe when you're doing these type of jobs. In addition to that, this is actually very important for the transmission mount because you need to be able to support the car on the subframe because you have to actually use the jack to lift up the engine. We'll go through that in a bit too. So of course, making sure it's on the jack stands on the subframe is equally important here. The mount we're working on today is situated just behind here. We're going to have to take this panel. It's actually very easy. We'll do that in a second too. But that's the mount right there. So we're going to be taking that out. It's actually not that bad to get to. Of course, as you can see, I've got the wheel off. You do have to get the wheel off to get to this. On the same side too, although I'm not doing it in this video, on the other side, if you want to do on the passenger side, there is an engine mount. It's a little further in, a little bit hard to get to, but it's possible to do as well. I may do that in a separate video at a separate time. I'm not sure. We'll see how that goes. For now, though, I'm doing the trans mount, which is on this side over here. This hunk of block over here, this is the new mount I'm putting in. This is a poly mount. They have actually, as far as I can tell, 3 different types of mounts. They have the hydraulic, they have the solid, and then they have the poly. Each one provides its own level of comfort and performance. Starting with the hydraulic, then solid, and then poly. Hydraulic giving you the best possible ride because the hydraulic fluid that's inside, it actually helps with absorbing some of the road like vibrations and things like that, and it kind of absorbs some of it, so it gives you the best possible ride, but it also has a lot more flex in it because of the fluid inside. The solid would be the next one, and you know, it's pretty related to this really, in that it's a solid mount, so you feel a little bit more road vibration and so on, but then you get more out of the transmission and more performance out of it. And then you get this bad boy over here, where you get there's virtually no flex in it. It's a pretty solid block, but gives you most performance, but it'll feel the most out of the road vibrations and engine vibrations and everything like that as well. So it just depends on what you're looking for in your car, but this is what I will be going with here. So the first thing I do is focus on the top of the engine here, because there's a few things you've got to do. Because you're going to be lifting the engine up from underneath, you need to release a few things here. Every car, you're going to have to release these dog bones right over here. Those are the front engine mounts. And then if you have a strut tower bar or anything like that, whether it's factory or aftermarket, you're going to have to take that off because as you lift the engine, it could make contact with it. And also be wary of any other things that could be around there, especially if you've done any other types of modifications or anything like that. And also, depending on your car, you may have to take off the airbox as well. I'm going to try and avoid that if I can. We'll see, but if we have to, at least we know we do. But for now, I'm just going to take off the dog bones, and I'm going to take off the strut tower bar. Take it off. I don't know if you guys can see it there. Let's bring that a little closer. You can see it's a bolt and a nut on each side. They are 15 millimeter each. Put that down there. And all it is we're going to put our ratchet on one side and a wrench on the other to hold the nut. As you're doing this too, be cautious of the nut falling. It could just fall and that would be annoying as well. Nut's out. Let me just pull that out. And I'll give you the leverage there. Do the same for the other side. Bolt's actually contacting the plate here, so we're just going to take that off, put that aside. Alright. Okay, so as you can see, I took off the strut tower bar at the top, just the brackets are left. But the bar is now removed. That was simple, just there's 2 bolts on each side, it's out. Also, I decided to just completely remove all the dog bones, just as opposed to just taking off the bolt here. With it sitting here, I felt like if we're lifting, it may make contact and make the job a little harder. Might as well just make it easy and take it out. Be aware that doing this though does cause the engine to shift slightly, especially since now we're going to be lifting the engine to do the trans mount and everything. So putting it back together, you may need a crowbar or a pry bar or something. You may have to shift the engine around ever so slightly to put these back on later on, but we'll get to that after. But as you can see now, everything's prepped and ready to go. Okay, so now we get under here a little bit more. Now to get to the motor mount, you're going to have to take off this panel here, at least remove these 2 screws over here. Now these are plastic, I don't know if you've ever seen them before and when you're working. They're just plastic inserts with like a Phillips head star point plastic screw in there. These also tend to wear out and stuff over time. What you can do is put your finger behind it, and you can feel it. And just kind of give it a little push on the screw part itself. Otherwise, if you do, it's just going to spin. Like I'll show you. If you do it like this, let me see, it may or may not. Let's see. But I know most of these things you just turn and turn and turn, and they don't unscrew because they kind of just spin in the plastic. But if you kind of put your finger behind there and give it a little push, over here like that, and then turn, and it just comes out. And then once you get it to a point, you can actually use your finger and kind of hold it and pull it out. And when you pull it out, it'll turn on the treads. And actually, in this case, it even slid out, even better. So that's out, and then this plug should just pull right out with it. There we go. Put that back together. And we're also going to want to do this one right over here. Doesn't just pull out. Screw it. Okay, and pull that plastic tab out. There you go. Drops down. And then we're going to move that aside. There. So that is the mount right over there. As you can see, it's pretty straightforward in taking it off. It's just the 4 bolts here. So essentially what you're doing is you're first going to be loosening, well, that's pretty filthy, these 4 bolts. And once they're completely loose, you just got to lift the engine enough that you can clear those bolts and remove the mount out. So let's get to that now. Alright, so now these up here, they're all 15 millimeters all the way around. Down here, you're definitely going to have to use a wrench. There's not enough leverage here to get ratchet through. Up here, you may be able to. I'm going to try and do this as best as possible so you guys can see. Let's take a look here. There we go. A little bit firm, but get them to go. It's one. Let's crack the second one here. Also, of course, it wouldn't hurt to spray them down, which I probably should have done. Okay, not bad. So we've cracked all of them, so now it's just a matter of loosening them all off. So as you can see now, all the bolts are out. Sorry, the nuts are out. What am I saying? All four, top and bottom. These two came out with a socket, no problem. I had to use the wrench, and that took a little longer, but all in all, it only took about not even 10 minutes to take everything apart, just to take those four, and it really was those two that took some time. And if you have, let's say, a 15mm ratcheting wrench, that would make life so much easier. You just put that on and go with it, and it'll come off easy. I should really get one of those, shouldn't I? Other than that, no, now that's off. The next thing is, of course, lifting the engine. So the question becomes, how do you lift the engine, right? You can't just put it right onto the pans, either the oil pan or trans pan or anything like that, because you'll bend them, you'll destroy them, you'll break bolts, all sorts of things could happen. So this is the way you do it. You get a piece of wood, preferably pretty thick, and the wider the better too. The more you can disperse the pressure and the weight across everything, the better. And then you just put it across. You see here I've got it kind of across both the oil pan and the trans pan, and you lift up. And then you just jack up slowly. While jacking, you're checking everything. I'm checking right now. I'm looking up, above, making sure I'm not damaging anything. I'm clearing everything. While I'm doing that, I'm coming over and checking my mount. It's actually almost completely clear already. Only a few pumps, so that's good. Okay. Almost there. Alright, that's about as high as I want to go. Now if you come and look over here, you can see now it's completely clear of the mount, but the engine is also moved, and that's because, again, there's only really one mount holding everything, and that's on the other side. The two top mounts, and then obviously this one, are released. So we're just going to pull that out, and then I'm just going to inspect it quickly. It'll also be a good opportunity to clean all this up too. I'm going to get some sandpaper or something and clean this up, smooth it out as best as possible, just so it's, you know, all nice and new for a new mount. So I'll be right back. But I'm going to do that separately. Just actually, before I tell you, just going to do it here. So let's do that right now. So all we're doing is comparing the two mounts and making sure that all the bolts line up. Everything should line up correctly. Now, I can't get a good angle for you guys because I'm doing this on my knee. There. I don't know if you could tell or not, but everything does line up. That's not the best angle, but you get the idea. That's all you're really checking for. You're checking the size, making sure it all fits and everything. And then pending that goes through now, I'm just going to go and clean that up. I'm not going to bother filming it, just like kind of sanding it up a bit. And then we're going to put the new one in. Alright, so I've cleaned it up. As you can see, I've already dropped the engine right back onto the mount, but I haven't dropped it completely yet. It's still sitting on there, but I want to show you because this is the part that's kind of dangerous, and because of it, I didn't film it. Also because I want to see what I actually need to be done. Turned out for me to be easy, but I wanted to let you know what could happen. So now, as you saw in the early part of the video, the engine itself was up and to the side. The problem with this is that when you're dropping it down, your hope is that it drops back down and lands in the same spot. May not happen, especially with only one mount on the other side kind of holding things together. So what I was prepared for is I have a pry bar, and I was going to try and see how I can move this around as best as possible to fit, and it may take some fiddling to get it done. You may even need a second person to go up top with a pry bar and kind of move the engine a bit. I was actually extremely lucky. I dropped the engine, and as it dropped from here, it kind of moved back over and settled and settled right on perfect. That's really what you want to do, but that's a best case scenario for me. It's not always the case for everyone. So now with that done, I can now completely just release the engine. And we're all good there. And that's all set there. So this now all is pretty much the reverse. So from this point here, and it's actually should just be all pretty straightforward. So with a couple little things you may have to do, but I'm just going to feed the nuts on here. Same at the bottom. It looks good, doesn't it? Nice little touch. No one will see it, unfortunately, because it's covered by both this plastic and the wheel, of course. But it is a nice touch. There's always one nut. Okay. And now from here, it's all pretty much tighten it as much as possible. Now I couldn't find anyone who can get me torque specs on what these bolts actually are, but just judging from when I pull them off, pretty much going to go to hand tight and give it probably another half turn on top. I want it good and tight. I mean, it wasn't like, as you saw, I didn't have to use anything else to extend leverage or anything like that. So it's obviously not super tight, but tight enough that you don't want anything to happen. So this part, of course, they say do at your own risk, but because I don't have a number, I could say, oh yeah, it's 30 foot-pounds or whatever. So just about using your best judgment from when you pulled it off to now. That's the only unfortunate part. By the way, if anyone happens to know, feel free to post it, right? Nothing wrong with that. It'd be a great feedback for anyone who watches this video. So now, because the last few steps are really pretty straightforward and easy, I didn't bother to film that. I just talked to you about it quickly, and that's really, obviously after I tightened these all up very well. So you can see there. So the sad part's all covered now, but that's okay. You know, we know that's going to happen. I put these tabs back in and put this back on, and that's all done. Up here, I put the dog bones back in and rebolted everything up all really tight. When I did this side here, I had to move the engine. Depending how strong you are, all I did is, obviously with this off, I grabbed the manifold and I pulled it forward, and I was able to very easily get the bolt through there. You may have to get a pry bar, put it somewhere solid and kind of bend it slightly, but it was actually very easy to do by hand. Same with this one here. I didn't have to do anything actually. I did this one second, I did that one first, and this just all bolted up nice and easy. And then I put the cover back on, obviously, and then I put my strut tower bar back on. So that's really all there is to it. This is one of those jobs that, you know, it actually took me longer because I was filming the video for you guys, which I don't mind. It's actually a very easy, quick job to do, and if you do it the right way, you can get it done probably within an hour, if that. Like, it's a pretty easy, straightforward job, and whether you need to do it just because you have to repair it, they do wear out and stuff, or whether you're doing it because you're upgrading like myself, you now can get that done. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next video.